Okay, hi, my name is Betsy Ellenberger, and this is the first time I've done one of these that this many people have showed up. So thank you all for coming tonight and showing your interest in the school board election. Let's see. I moved here about 10 years ago, and with my daughter, who's in the audience, and my husband. He received a job with Oshkosh Truck Corporation. And when he came up here, he had a corporate apartment. And the reason why I'm telling you this background is we had a choice. We could move within an hour of Oshkosh. And staying in the apartment, looking around, we chose Neenah. We love Neenah. The schools at the time, I mean, and still are some of the best in the valley. The community, I mean, everywhere from the mannequin show, you know, when people come out at, you know, minus 10 degrees to go look in the storefront windows at Neenah, to doing the concerts in the park in the summer. It's a great community. I've lived in 7 states and 2 other countries, and I can say that if you were born and raised here, you're very, very fortunate. It doesn't get much better than this, and I'm so happy to be a part of the community. Let's see here. We never regretted moving here. This was definitely just the place to go. So about 9 years ago, I decided I wanted to get more involved in the local community. So I decided to run for the school board. My daughter at the time was just starting at Cruz Elementary, kindergarten. We come up from, where were we at last? Atlanta. And I thought, I just want to be more involved. I want to know more what's going on in the district. I want to know what's everything that's going on in the school. So I decided to run, and and this wonderful community opened its arms and elected me the first time. And I've been on the board now for 9 years, and I've enjoyed most of it. There's highs and lows for sure. A lot of decisions we've had to make over the years that have been kind of tough, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. And once again, I'd like to thank you for continuing to support me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellenberger. So we're going to go to Mr. Garcia.
Thank you very much. Looks like this is not working, but I have a loud voice. Can you hear me? All right.
Hello. Sorry. My name is Marcelo Garcia. I'm originally from Ecuador, South America. Winter time, I wonder myself what I'm doing in here below zero when I can be in Ecuador where it's 50, 60 degrees year round. But I like this community. I have 2 kids that go to Neenah High School. I moved to this area back in 2001 to the town of Menasha. And now it's Ox Crossing. And I have been lucky enough to, when I just moved here, to work for the Neenah School District as an ELL paraprofessional. I was housed in Roosevelt School and also worked in Shattuck, Neenah High School. I did that for 2 years, and then I moved to Menasha, where I also work as an ELL paraprofessional. And since 2005, I've been working for the state. My involvement in the community has been in different areas. Back in 2006, I founded a nonprofit organization called Casa Hispana. This is a nonprofit referral organization for the Latino community and for the non-Latino community. And every year, Casa Hispana gives like about $10,000 in scholarships for people who are going to higher education. I have also been coaching soccer for the Neenah Soccer Club recreation program, so I've been involved in that extent with the community as well. I have also, the last couple of years, volunteered with the Fox Crossing Parks and Rec department. If you have gone to the parks in there, you can see Hauser Park now, and then the by the Trestle Trail. Now you can see more into the park because we have actually, so I have helped remove the backbone from those parks, and I mean, it is great. I mean, you guys scratched all over my arm, but it doesn't matter to me. You know, when it becomes to make the community better, I'm all for it. I'm part of a group that deals with narrating stories of the migrant community here, basically the Dreamers. It's called Voices of Hope. It's a reading theater. So we go around sharing our stories of the migrant community area. So that's my involvement in the community. And I want to now be part of the Neenah by being a member of the school board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia, and now we go to Mr. John Lehman.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I think I see a lot of familiar faces out there, so thought maybe I'll just kind of go over a little bit of my educational history and where I grew up. I was born in Wisconsin, grew up by Dale, Wisconsin, on a small farm. Began my educational journey when Eisenhower was still the president, and went to a one-room schoolhouse with 8 grades, so multi-age learning, or having a 7-8 school at Shattuck doesn't scare me. It was really wonderful, and what's changed, I don't think kids are born any different today than they were back then, but for sure society's changed and the education process has changed greatly. And I never like to say, well, back in the day this is how we did it, because it doesn't really apply today anymore. So after I went to the one-room school with 8 grades for 4 years, and then it was a county school. Then they went and they became part of Hortonville School District, and they took all the one-room schools and they made them 2-year schools. So you went to school with your family, and you had I had 3 other siblings, and each one of us went to a different school because our ages were a little bit different. And one thing that was nice was when I was in 7th and 8th grade, we started at Hortonville. They had a brand new elementary school, which is what allowed us to move all the one-room schools into the one big school. And I can tell you, having a new school, we had a better, it was great for science, learning, and that sort of thing, with the experiments and the facility that we had there versus what we would have in a one-room school. But so after high school, I had no intentions to go to college or anything. Back then, not too many people did. So we'd get out and get a job. So I got a job at Service Motors in Dale as it was a farm implement mechanic. I spent one day a week going to Fox Valley Tech, so I understand what technical education is like and how great that school is. After 1 year there, I was a mechanic, had my own shop, but I kind of wanted to see what else was out there, so I thought I wanted to go to college. So to fund it, I joined the Air Force, thinking I'd use the GI Bill. Spent 4 years in the Air Force flying on AC-135 tankers in the Strategic Air Command. Then I went to Air National Guard for 1 year when I went to college in Madison, graduated with a degree in mechanical engineering, and worked 23 years at Kimberly-Clark as a project engineer. And at the end of my career, I was running $90 million projects with hundreds of tradespeople, so I understand the value of trades, the training, and that type of lifestyle. And I think it's where we need to be today, because you can't outsource trades to other countries. Currently, I've worked for the last 12 years at an automation company, and I sell and help design automation equipment for large manufacturers.
Thank you, Mr. Lehman.
19 years in the school board.
Sorry. Mr. Brian Appley, please.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming today. Looks like a familiar crowd. I think I see at least 5 or 6 of my former teachers in the audience. So, thank you. I knew I was going to be really nervous until I started talking, so hopefully I'll calm down now. I, kind of like Betsy said, I grew up in Neenah, and so I count myself lucky to have started here. My family moved here when I was 5 or 6 years old. Went to Teller School, followed by Shattuck Junior High School. That's right, it was the junior high at the time. And then graduated from Neenah High School. And went on to the Milwaukee School of Engineering, where I earned a degree in architectural engineering. Since then, I've been working a couple different places in construction, engineering, design, for the last 16 years or so. I've been to these candidate forums for the last 2 years, I think I've come, just to see what was going on in the community. This is definitely the most full I've seen the room, so thank you all for coming. And that's part of the reason why I'm here tonight. Is I was sitting where you are, and then I decided I should get more involved in the whole process. I've got 3 kids of my own that are in Neenah schools right now, a 10-year-old, 8-year-old, and a 5-year-old. Put them all together, and I have 26 more years of children going through Neenah schools. So I have a vested interest in what's going on for the next 26 years. Well, not quite 26. So that's why I'm here. I'm interested in keeping track of things and helping to make the schools the best possible place for our kids. Not only my own, but everyone's. I've been a long-time volunteer at the Boys and Girls Brigade, 21 plus years, I think, right now. And that's really been my passion for a long time. I've always loved working with kids and having that volunteer aspect of my life. And that's another reason I wanted to step into this role, was to take on a new challenge, volunteer in a different way to help make things better for kids and for our community. So thank you all for coming here tonight, and thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Epley. And now, Ms. Hollerswick.
Hi, I'm Carol Hollerswick, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters and all of you for being here tonight. A little bit about me. This is the first time I'm running for public office. I am the parent of 3 children. They have attended Neenah Public Schools from kindergarten. They started at Coolidge, and my youngest will graduate from Neenah High School in May. During my 15 years of having children in the district, I've been an active parent volunteer. I volunteered in their elementary classrooms and with the Coolidge PTO. I've served 2 3-year terms on the board of Neenah Music Parents and been very active in their activities. And I've made a lot of pasta for the boys' cross-country team. In the community, I volunteered as a tutor at the Fox Valley Literacy Coalition for a few years. That was a few years ago. At my church, which is First Congregational in Appleton, I have served as the chair of the communications committee and also the alternative gift market. And most recently, I began volunteering in Madison, actually, which is not our community, but at the VA hospital in a program called My Life, My Story, which is a program where we interview veterans about their life stories and write narratives so that their caregivers can get to know them better. My education and professional background, I received my undergrad at the University of Michigan. I went back to school for a master's degree when I was in my 40s and received a master's degree in English and have been teaching part-time at Fox Valley Literacy, or at the Tech, Fox Valley Tech, since 2015. I've also worked in the college textbook publishing industry for about 30 years in sales and marketing, editorial, and writing. So that's sort of me in a nutshell. Why I'm running is, there are really 2 big reasons why I'm running. So I believe that public schools are really the bedrock of strong communities. They are what make a community vibrant. They bring people together, the students and parents and community members and teachers in ways that other institutions really don't. Public schools really do that. And our commitment to schools is really our commitment to our community and to the future of our community, both the students and just the whole community. The second major reason I'm running is that public schools have taken a big hit in recent years. It's not been, very many. They've had a lot of difficult years, and I would like to be a voice for public schools, both in our community. I'd like to do the best I can for our kids and our teachers, and I'd also be willing to advocate for them at the state level as well.
Thank you, Ms. Hollerswick. And we have someone who is going to read Mr. Handy's statement.
Hi, I'm Peggy, and I'm from the League of Women Voters. First and foremost, thank you to the League of Women Voters for their service to the community and their service to all candidates. Thank you all for attending tonight, for participating in our election. and our democracy. I would also, I would also like to thank my wife Sheila and son Cody, who allow and accept that for the past 14 years, 2 Tuesday nights a month belong to Neenah School Board meetings. I sincerely apologize that I am not in attendance tonight. Unfortunately, for me 4 months ago, I committed this Thursday evening to another obligation. It's important to me that I share my opinion with you. I have long thought candidates who do not participate in voters' forums should not write letters for public dissemination at the forum. Yet here we are. As it turns out, some of my supporters do not share my opinion. So after considerable soul searching, I've come to the conclusion that in democracy, elected servants listen to the public they serve and make decisions accordingly. Or at least I tell myself that in some small way smooth my conscience. About me, I've lived in Neenah for 19 years and in the Fox Valley all my life. I worked for a local home builder, building homes mostly in Neenah, town of Neenah, Fox Crossing, and Grand Chute. I took an unexpected interest in the school district and board proceedings when my son Cody entered kindergarten at Roosevelt Elementary School. I've seldom missed regular board meetings in those 14 years. I can't tell you for certain why I'm so driven in this endeavor. However, I continue at it since I find I enjoy it. I believe my participation serves the good of the community, and I wholeheartedly believe the school district is the most important government body in the local community. For these reasons, I would choose to serve as a school board member. You may conclude that I am not a candidate who is driven to campaign. You would be correct. I am not a politician. But you have my word in past history that I am 100% committed to the task at hand. My experience tells me that serving on a board is tough work, and running for a public office puts candidates in a position of being rejected in public. No small sacrifice for an individual. So I wish to thank all my fellow candidates for their selfless dedication to our school. Thank you for attending. Please stay involved and please vote. I can be reached at Sincerely, Tom Canby.
All right, now that you've met the candidates, the fun and games are over. Now we're going to give them some really tough questions.
But I guess I'm up for the challenge. The voucher program. Everybody who says that he's an advocate for public school, like I am, can be in line, online, or in favor of the voucher program. The voucher program takes money out of our school districts to private education, which they are not hold to the same standards of the public education. And there's not a clear disclosure of how much money is being spent or is being taken away from the school districts in favor of the voucher programs. To make things worse, I mean, the voucher program keep expanding, and now it's not serving the purpose that was probably meant to be. The vouchers for private education is going to students who are already enrolled in private schools, so it's not going to any new students in there. And we always have a choice. We always have a choice in the schools. I have no problems with people sending their kids to private education if they choose to do so. But they should be at the expense of the taxpayers, at the expense of people who support public education. It should be repealed. The Board of Education should find a way to talk to other board of education in the state to see if it can be modified, stopped, reduced, or eliminated. We can't continue to take our money out of public education to expand on private school. That is my answer to that. I have never been in favor of the voucher program. I will never take it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. And now, Mr. Lehman.
Well, in 1999, when I applied for a board vacancy, they asked me that same question. And I said, as a citizen, I'm really not a, I don't mind vouchers. I'm not afraid of vouchers. And I don't believe that today. We have over 6,000 students in Neenah. 45 students roughly take a voucher, and probably most of them are already in the private system. I believe that if you have a good, solid public school system, vouchers don't scare me. My main concern is through the funding and how they fund it. I think about 3 years ago, when the legislature expanded it, they kind of hurt schools where they were taking them, because they spent so much money on K through 12 education, both public and private, so the more they sent to the private through vouchers, the less money there was per student for public. And I don't believe that's correct. If they want to add additional funds for vouchers, they have to find additional funds through the revenue stream. So I guess that's pretty much my take on it. I think right now, in our district with the 45 students, they changed the law such that it costs, we have to transfer more money for a voucher student than we actually get from the state. But they allow for us now to go and tax you, the homeowners, to make up that difference. It's about $500,000. So it does increase your local property taxes through the voucher system. And overall, average cost per student in Wisconsin is about $12,000, and the amount that they give a voucher student is about $7,800 for high school. It's a little bit less for elementary. So the total cost is less, but most of those students are already in the private system. So I do believe vouchers should be supported through, based on the income of the parents, that sort of thing.
Thank you, Mr. Lehman. Mr. Epley.
Well, I'm kind of going to agree with the other two gentlemen so far. I don't think it's the best idea for our community. I think we should work to make the public school system as good as it can be, and giving it all the tax dollars we can makes the most sense in my opinion. The fact that the vouchers actually take more than the students share away just doesn't seem like a fair system in my mind. And like I said, I'd rather just make the public schools the system that people want to be in. The public schools in our own community, rather than having people going to parochial institutions or other schools outside the community. So yes, I'd like to see those dollars stay with our public schools and in our public school system.
Thank you very much, and we'll pass that to Ms. Hollerswick, please.
I do not support the voucher system and the expansion of the voucher system, and I would like it to be repealed. The reason is that the tax, as Mr. Lehman explained, the tax dollars that you pay through your property taxes first are going out to pay the tuition for a child to attend a private school, and then you're actually paying a little bit more because that child has left. So your property taxes actually go up because of this voucher system. So I don't support that, because I think that the tax dollars that we all pay to support our public schools should support our public schools and only our public schools. That said, if a parent does want to send a child to a private school, that's fine, but I think that they should foot the bill for the tuition. So another reason I don't support our tax money going to private schools is that private schools don't have the same accountability that the public schools have. There is no candidate forum like this. You will not have a board that you can go to and complain or praise or just voice your concerns. They can teach what they want. They're not accountable to you in any way, even though they're using your tax dollars. Private schools also don't take all students. Public schools are there for everyone. They're for the whole community. And private schools are not, and they can take who they want. So it builds a separate community. And I also think that finally, we are basically, with the voucher system, we're paying for parallel systems. We have a private system that we're helping to support and a public system that we're helping to support. I really believe strongly that our tax dollars should be used only for public schools.
Thank you, Ms. Hollerswick. And finally, Ms. Ellenberger. Ms. Ellenberger.
Let's see, vouchers, always been one of those subjects. I do thank John for the numbers because I can always depend on him to have the clear-cut numbers. He's the numbers guy on the board. Let's see, I am not for repealing them. I don't mind the competition. I know there's been a lot of numbers being brought around, and but I do know one thing is that we don't have a concrete number on what kids are actually receiving it. We don't know if they're kids that are already in the system. We don't know if they're new kids. Those numbers are not available. We're trying to get them as we speak, but they're not available at this time. So I don't want to comment on that because I don't know the answers to that one. My child has been in both public and private. I see a pro for both, but she is now in Neenah High School, and very excited and proud that she's in Neenah High School, but she has been in both, so I've seen both sides of it. They do have something to offer, and there are individuals out there that want that choice. I do believe, though, that in order to support the voucher system, that I do think that the testing, for example, is the one part that bothers me, is that it's not on the same playing field. And I don't agree with the governor's stance on that. I think it should be on the same playing field. If they're going to receive dollars to the private sector for private school, then I do believe that it should be on the same playing field. And I do agree with you on some of those points too with the board, but then they don't have a board that, like you said, like us in a public forum, but you don't have to send your kid there. So, you don't, it's kind of a competition thing. And I really believe, though, that that Neenah will win in most cases, actually. So I'm pretty proud of our school district on how we've stood against that. So, stop.
Thank you very much. All right, our second question. You can thank Ms. Ellenberger for this question. Since you're the numbers guy, we're going to there's a lot of interest. We have several questions about the proposed changes to our district. So I'm going to give you the numbers question to start us off, if that's okay.
The answer was 4.
42 maybe. So these are two questions that are related. They're not exactly the same, and so I'll let you choose how to address them. So the first question says, do we need a new $15 million field house? If so, why? And the other question says, what is your opinion on spending $260 million on school upgrades? And will you vote yes or no on it? So we're talking about the cost of some of the proposed upgrades. So if you could give us some of your thoughts about the dollar amounts and your level of support.
Well, that's pretty complicated, but when I first heard $15 million for a sports facility, I thought, oh my God, that's huge. It's 2.5 times Kimberly, probably bigger than the Hudson Center. But then when I saw the budget for the school upgrades of $250 to $350 million, I thought, man, that's cheap. So, definitely we need to spend some money. The best part is that as a district, we have no long-term debt. So I'm not a big fan of debt. I don't like debt. I think it's really limits your options going forward, but I do believe we need to do things in our elementary schools. We can upgrade those and free up some rooms so that we can have a room for art and a room for music. I think I would really like to see, I was disappointed that none of the proposals really added anything to the high school as far as a technology wing where we could do more for teaching kids the trades, where they could come out of high school in maybe 1 year and get an associate degree at Fox Valley Tech and that sort of thing. In high school, that's what I did. I did shop courses because I wasn't planning on going to college, and I think it's with the cost of college these days and kids coming out and not even being able to find a job and having a huge amount of debt, I think that's terrible. But getting debt back to the facility studies, maybe they'll come back, but we're a long ways away from voting on anything near $250 million. We need to look at it in great detail, spend the money wisely, and I'm kind of, our OPEB liability is for post-retirement benefits. We had a $68 million liability, it's now $34 million. We started funding it. We have 12 million in the bank. So within 5 years, we're going to free up a $5 million revenue stream within our district that can go towards buildings. So I could, with that amount of money, that would fund about $75 million of capital expansion. Maybe we do run for another 75 million, so we can do about 150 million. So I think the first step is figure out how much we're able to spend.
Thank you very much. Mr. Epley, your report.
As for the athletic facility in particular, I think that's a really small piece of the puzzle. It seems crazy that $15 million is small, but like John said, when you're looking at 260 plus million, the 15 is a pretty tiny number. And, you know, maybe it could be the Plexus field house or something. We had a benevolent donor, perhaps. As far as the rest of the upgrades go, the 260 million is sort of an ambiguous number. I know it's written on paper, but from my experience, projects never cost what the first estimate comes out at. We're looking at somewhere around 130 million just for the basic updates and safety upgrades to the schools. So there's kind of a minimum number that I think we definitely need to spend. And then where we go beyond that, that's going to be part of this long-term planning discussion, because it's going to have ramifications for generations. You know, I think there's a big question to be asked about whether or not we repair some of our buildings and just upgrade them, or if we actually replace a few of them. You've probably maybe seen those charts. They had estimated costs for both, and some of them are awfully close. Shattuck, for instance, I think was less than $10 million to just completely replace it. So that's going to be a big part of the question too. What makes the most sense for everybody, and how to most effectively spend those dollars in a responsible way. I think the safety concerns are definitely going to be a big priority in all of this as well. Whether we are talking about repairing or replacing, obviously the world is changing, and the safety of my kids in their school, I kind of hate that I have to worry about it, but I am really worried about it. So that's definitely going to be foremost on my mind.
Thank you. Ms. Hollersway.
I've attended the 3 facilities meetings that have happened so far, and I have to hand it to our board. I mean, they are asking the right questions of the architects and the administration. That dollar figure, it's a big one, and there's a lot more information I think that the board needs to have in order to come to some decisions about what changes will be made. That said, I do think that changes, you know, many of the buildings do need updating, they need upgrading, they need expansion. They have not been updated in a long time, and I'm pleased that the school district has taken this step and begun this process. It won't be, I don't think, decided very soon. I think there will be many, many more meetings and many more questions. I'm pleased to see that the community has gotten really engaged in offering their opinion. There are a lot of teachers and administrators who have also spoken at the open forums during these meetings, which I think is great. The building administrators have a view that really only they can have of how that space is being used, and I'm really glad that their voices are being heard and they're speaking up. As for the sports facility, I will echo the men to my left here in saying that when you're looking at something that is this costly, it does seem like it's less expensive, but it is a big ticket item. I'm a firm believer that we need to support education. We have the educational aspects of the buildings, the athletic aspects of the buildings, the performing arts. So I do expect there will be something for all of those groups. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Ellenberger.
Well, let's see, I've also sat at the 3 meetings, and the outpour of interest from the community who's come to these meetings has been just wonderful. And I please invite you to the next one, which I believe is April 3rd, I'm pretty sure, 5th, sorry, April 5th. It's at Shattuck Middle School, and we'd love for everyone here to show up because they're really important to get your output. your input of that. Indoor facility, sports facility is actually, every kid in our district will end up in that facility. It's a competition thing too. It's getting those kids in there. It's getting those kids moving when the weather's bad. We're going to hopefully be opening up to the community if it gets passed. There's so many ifs, ands, or buts with the whole facility study. I mean, we are just beginning to look at it. It's over 600 pages long, and I'm a real estate agent, and the first time that we started looking at this, it looked like the absolute worst home inspection I've ever seen in my whole entire life on all the buildings. It was crazy. I mean, it's 600 pages long. I don't know how to explain that. So once again, we're just now starting to just dive into this stuff. We haven't made any decisions. We haven't figured out which pathway. You know, there's several pathways, and we haven't got to that spot yet. Even though the newspaper has said that we've already decided to close 3 schools, sometimes don't always believe what you read. Let's see. We're going to be surveying the community soon, and this is important. This is so important for you guys to tell us what you're thinking, to come to the meetings and to fill out the survey. That's going to be coming to you soon. And if or when we do decide to do a referendum, it's up to you guys to decide. It's up to our community of Neenah to decide if this is the way that you want to go. So it's your decision as a community. We're just going to try to wiggle through it and try to figure out what to present to you guys. But it's up to you guys to really step forward and help us too. Thanks.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Garcia.
I am pleased to see that in every meeting there's more and more people going there, and I believe that's due to the Post Crescent being involved in that. The first meeting were very many people there. I guess probably not a lot of people in Neenah know that was going on. So I will ask Neenah to be a little more transparent, a little more communicative with the community, especially on these kind of issues. So in regards to the field house, the field home, it depends what we value more, sports or academics. Definitely Neenah has a very strong, is very proud of the sport programs. I think if we're going to spend a lot of money in that, I hope we're going to not doing that just to keep up with the Joneses. I think better investment would be like Mr. Lehman said, spending this money in areas where students have the opportunity to do hands-on training in some kind of trades or technical vocational areas. That would be good. And I think nobody here is going to deny that the school is going to have to spend some money repairing or replacing the buildings. And it saddens to me that in any of these proposals, I don't see any option there to build a new middle school or even high school, and the west side of the district, which is growing fast, quickly, or in the south side, that's where the development is. So that would be one of my concerns, that if they're going to build a field house, to do that in a new middle school, new high school, instead of just expanding the one and in high school. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We had so many questions about this issue that we're going to go around and discuss a little bit more about that. This one is less about the money and more about the underlying reasons that the district may undertake something of this scope. So there are a couple of questions. Some of you already answered one of the questions, so when you begin, if you would just please tell us how many recent NJSD facility study meetings have you attended? And then just kind of share what your thoughts are about the state of our buildings and our facilities. And maybe touch on, what are some of the reasons that we're considering building more schools and changing our attendance areas once again. If you have a preference for one of the plans, if
the state of our buildings, and do you have a preference for any of the proposals? And we're going to be starting with Mr. Epley this time.
The dreaded question I have to start. Sorry, I'm still a little weak. How many meetings have I been to? I have been present at 2 of the 3 meetings. I was out of town at a conference for the second meeting, I think it was. So I missed that one, but I've been reading through all the materials, and I've sat through the meetings. And it has been really encouraging to see the involvement. Made the step to have multiple multiple times for the public to speak during those meetings, so there could be some discussion instead of board meetings. Why do we need to fix our building? I think one of the best answers to that is one of the teachers who came to the last meeting who explained to the really interesting water feature. She found it at the classroom. It is unnatural, at least it's not evident. The wall was leaking and flowing water through the room. That's a good example of that. But there are stories like that from across the district. I remember the newest of our buildings is 50 years old, so we really have plenty of room for improvement. And I think it's really important to upgrade the facilities to make sure we have that. As far as preference for any one of the plans, I don't think we're ever going to see any of those plans. The answer is going to be somewhere in between those things. It's going to be a mixture of pieces and parts from all of them. There may be brand new buildings, there may be repaired buildings, but the plans that we've actually seen so far are kind of like Betsy said, just the tip of the iceberg, and we have a long way to go before we find the answer.
Thank you, Mr. Epley. Ms. Hollerswick.
Like I said, I've been to 3 of the meetings. As for the state of the buildings and the facilities, Shattuck in particular is a building that needs considerable work. We've lived in the district for, as I said, 19 years, and I think those windows in the front of the building have been clouded all of those 19 years. And it really just in and out, inside and out. The reason behind why these buildings are being, why this building study was undertaken is in part some of the just long-term maintenance that needs to be done. But also, I mean, teaching is changing. Educators would like to do different things in their classrooms. They would like bigger spaces so that they can move around more, so that they can have different types of configurations, so that their desks, the students' desks don't just have to be in rows. So part of the impetus for this change is to respond to changes in education. And I think that's really exciting. I think that's it's exciting that the district is willing to put the time in to think about how we can make better spaces for our teachers so that they can do their jobs in the ways that they want to do them. One teacher spoke about that twice, actually, at 2 different meetings, very eloquently. As for the plans, which one, I don't think that those 3 plans that we have, I don't think any of them is actually going to make it to the end. In part because of the proposed change in Horace Mann, bringing the 5th graders into Horace Mann, it requires an addition, but unfortunately the architect didn't really take into account the green space that would be taken up by the addition or the increased traffic. So that would be generated by 450 more children and their parents driving them to and from school. So there's some real issues that need to be, questions that need to be answered. Those have been put to the architects, and I think once some of those answers come, then there will be probably some new paths.
Thank you. Ready? Ms. Ellenberger, please.
Once I said what I said before is I've been to all 3 meetings, and once again I'm just going to reiterate this. It's a framework. It's just the beginning. I mean, we are just now looking at that iceberg, and we're trying to figure out. And one of the purposes is that we're trying to figure out how to balance what the wants are, what the safety aspects are, and what the budget is. I mean, it's a huge number, $250 million, but that's the highest number. You know, there's going to be some hybrid of some of these plans that they've put out for us. So that I agree with the people who've spoken before me. The water feature, we did have one of the teachers talk about the water feature at Shattuck, and I did ask the maintenance guy, who we spend $2.1 million a year in maintenance now, which prior to this was only about $500,000 a year. You can imagine that many buildings, 13 buildings, and $400,000 to $500,000 a year. We're up to 2.1. So at least we're trying to keep up with it. And he did say the water feature was fixed right after that, so there's no more waterfalls in the classroom. Let's see here. Yeah, once again, it's just a hybrid. And it's not going to be, you have to have the indoor facility and then you can't have something else. And or the horseman thing. We talked to the it's called Bray Architecture, and we said, you know, if we were to go this route, could you do this? And they said, well, you could, but we haven't even started to make the plans to make a different route at this point. So it is such at the beginning, and once again, it is crucial that the people in the community rally and say, this is what we want. It's important that you guys are involved. So I'm getting ready to get this stopped, so I will pass it on to Mr. Garcia.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Garcia.
Thank you. I have been at the 3 of the meetings at Shattuck, and I'm planning to be there in the 4 meeting too. And I think this issue is very difficult, and I have to give the kudos to the board for bringing it up. It's not an easy issue to bring it up when we talk about a lot of money. But I do hope that moving forward that we don't have to, in 23 years, go again with the same issue. But I hope from now on we do a more routine maintenance of all the buildings so that we don't have to spend all in once. And what worries me is that, as I said before, in all of these plans, I don't see any projection for the growth of in 23 years. If we're going to spend that much money now, I think it's time for think about a new school building, whether that's a middle high school, and the east side, the west side or the south side. That's where the population growth is going. I haven't heard any projections. Well, I don't think have been done any studies about the projection growth in the next 20 years. That would be good to know that. I have also heard that they want to build this sport complex to attract teachers and students. That would be an attraction for students and teachers for sure. But I think that what will attract more students and more teachers is moving to a school district where all students are performing good. The gap between the lowest and the highest performer is very narrow. Is a good indicator of a good school district. And the treatment of, I'm sorry, I guess run out of time.
Can I answer this question about the population stuff? No, we're not supposed to.
Okay, we're going to finish with Mr. Lehman on this question.
Okay, I've been to all 3 meetings, state of the buildings. I have to admit I was surprised when they came back and said we had to do $130 million just to renovate our current buildings. For Act 10, we were spending $500,000 per year on building maintenance capital. Since then, we've been spending $2 million, so we've quadrupled it. We've been doing boilers and roofs and parking lots, that sort of thing. A lot of that $130 million is not just maintenance. It's putting air conditioning in all the buildings. It's upgrading the buildings to ADA compliant. It's bathroom fixtures that are automated when you put your hand underneath, it turns the water on, that sort of thing. So I think that's what we have to get into the details of what's really needed and what's expected. But I never was, my daughter started Spring Road in 1991, and when I go back there, it pretty much looks the same as it did in 1991. My main concern is that our buildings are functioning, we have space where we can provide for our curriculum. I do realize that, like you say, I was surprised to see Shattuck windows that are opaque, you can't see through them, and I think those things we definitely need to take care of. We should have been doing it in our regular budget, but we do need upgrades, we do need more space, and I think there's an opportunity now to do it. It's just a matter of how we prioritize it and how much we can afford.
Thank you very much. We're going to be talking a little bit about standardized testing. And Ms. Morswick, we're going to begin with you. The question is, what ideas do you have to reduce the amount of standardized testing hours students go through over the course of the year? What do you think about reducing the amount of standardized testing hours students go through? How can we do that?
My son, who is a senior this year, has been, I would say, at the kind of the leading edge of a lot of testing. He was tested a lot in middle school with DORA testing, and then they moved on to STAR testing. And then as a freshman and a sophomore in the district, he was continuing, I think, with STAR testing, and then he was taking the pre-ACT, which right now, the Aspire, that's the Aspire test. He was tested all the time, it seemed. Now he's, as a junior and a senior, as a junior, I think he took the ACT just once at school, and this year, I think he's had none. There is a lot of testing, and I don't know if he was kind of caught in the bubble of a lot of new tests coming on board. I know it goes back to No Child Left Behind, where kids became, just started being tested a lot. I do think kids are tested too much. I think that the way to reduce that testing is to reduce that testing. It's to look at the tests that really, measure. We do need to test the kids. It's not like they can't be tested. Shouldn't be tested, but I think that they do not need to be tested as often. And I think that we need to decide what tests they have to take, and then eliminate the others. Measuring it every single quarter seems extreme. And I don't know that kids can really make those kinds of gains, measurable gains, in those short time periods. And I think it creates a lot of stress for the teachers, and it creates a lot of stress for the students. Thank you.
Ms. Ellenberger, how do you respond? Mr. Lehman.
Great, testing. Boy, test. As a student, I never really bothered taking tests. I think back in my day, it was only one little circle. Now we test quite a bit. We do test our students 3 times a year, fall, winter, spring, to see how they progress in math and language arts. They test them as well, and you might be surprised to find out that 55% of our students in Neenah test advanced or proficient in English or math. That means 45% are less than proficient. And it does provide some direction for us on where we ought to put our efforts. And we have increased a lot of things in literacy coaches and math coaches and that sort of thing. I find out that African is only about 42%. So it's kind of a nebulous thing. I guess testing, like I say, don't bother me. A lot of them are mandated by the state. The ACT test, everybody takes them today. Makes you wonder about some of the students that don't plan on going to college. How hard do they try to do well? But a lot of our students in the past, they didn't have to take algebra, but algebra is not a test. So if you are giving everybody the same test, but they're not even exposed to the subject matter in high school, obviously they're not going to do that well. So part of the thing is we're trying to drive our math rigor downward, so they're taking tougher courses earlier, and everybody will take algebra, that sort of thing. So I guess I'm not, testing for me is not a scary thing. I don't believe we ought to teach it to the test. I'm more concerned about the curriculum that we have and that we're teaching skills that are important, and the students are able to read. Our goal is to have them all read by grade 3, which back in my day, again, we were reading pretty much by end of 1st grade. So it's tougher. Life is not the same. So society is not the same. And public education is tough, and there's a lot of expectations for it.
Mr. Epley.
I was told I have to speak up louder. I'm going to try to do that now. I feel like I'm going to kind of reiterate what the other people here have seen or said already. Obviously, we have to meet the minimum standard requirements that we're presented with by the state and federal guidelines. I think our board has done a good job of taking advantage of meeting with the lawmakers in Madison and working through the legislative committee to try to make changes such as this. I do believe we could find a way to simplify the requirements. Like Carol said, it seems like we've come up with a whole slew of new tests, and we should probably try to do a better job of figuring out which of those tests are the appropriate ones and give us the best metrics to check our students' knowledge. Trying to think of my own kids, they're still pretty young, so they haven't hit the 21 test mark yet, thankfully. But they do tell me about it when they get them. I know it's definitely not their favorite part of the day. So yeah, if we could figure out a way to simplify those, I think that would be a really beneficial thing for the whole system.
Thank you. Our next question relates to the staffing proposal that recently came before the board. We're going to be starting with Ms. Ellenberger. And the question is, where do you stand on eliminating library media specialist positions in the near future? Library media specialist positions were considered for elimination. Where do you stand on that?
So the board actually did a hybrid version of the LMS, Library Media Specialist LMS. I'll try not to use acronyms. I remember when I first came on the board 9 years ago, I asked our board secretary to give me a whole booklet on what they mean, so I'll try not to use any acronyms. So the LMS, we just did a hybrid in the last board meeting where we voted, and we said that we were going to keep them, and then we were going to not do the assistant LMSs in the school districts. What do I think about the future? I don't know. I don't know what the future is going to hold for LMSs. I think that their job is going to be changing. It's going to be more into the technology sector as opposed to the actual book type of thing. I mean, that's just the way the world is changing right now for kiddos. You know, they're looking more at, they all have a laptop. I mean, K through 12 now, we have one-to-one laptops for all these kiddos in the school district. So things are changing, and I believe that what their criteria is for their position is going to change along with it. And I think that's probably what's going to happen. It's just going to be a hybrid of what's now and technology coaches type of things. So.
Okay. Mr. Garcia?
When it comes to staff that works directly with the students, I'm all for. I'm all against them creating more administrative staff. We need to focus it more in aiding the students. And library media specialists, they are a great aid to the teachers. I mean, the teachers sometimes don't have the time to help the students, and that's where the role of the LMS or library media specialists are there for. And as speaker who preceded me said, it's a changing world. I mean, they're going to be focused more on technology, and that is what we're going through. So those positions are being kept for now, and I do hope it's not just a temporary fix. I do hope that they will keep them, and I do hope the district moves up to create more staff positions that are going to be directly working with the students and give it the aid that they need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lehman?
Well, I have to admit, that's not what they do. These people that we're hiring as tech coaches have master's degrees in education degrees as well, and they understand technology and how to use that for learning in the classroom, and I think it's a great plus for us to have those, which is why we added two more. We only had two in the district and doubled to 4 this year. I wasn't in favor of eliminating the 3 LMSs just out of hand, because just by title that eliminates 3 positions within our district.
Technology coach and a library media specialist and the library media assistant. And then when they brought forth the proposal, the proposed case didn't match the test case. So that it seemed like a really great idea, and the way they had the test set up, it was great, but then they didn't follow through on that. So communication issues like that will be, it's important that the administration can communicate their plan to the board, so we don't have this sort of, I remember that meeting, it got a little tense. Also, the changing technology is great. I'm a big fan of technology myself. I probably let my kids use too much technology, to be honest, but I really don't want them to lose the aspects of the library and what librarians can bring to their knowledge and their learning.
Thank you, and let's finish with Ms. Hollerswick. So today's library media specialists are not the librarians that we grew up with. Library media specialists are technology people. They're just technology people with a lot of training to teach kids how to use technology for things like research papers. They help them find good sources, quality sources. They help them be critical thinkers so that they can sort out the good sources from the bad, the real news from the fake. So they teach our children, but they're able to zero in on some of these things that relate directly to technology and schooling and research that the classroom teacher might not be able to do. So the classroom teacher can bring them into the classroom, or they can bring the kids to where the computers are and they can work together. But the library media specialist provides that kind of teaching. So I'm generally in support of keeping those people working in the system, because I think that they provide a vital role. That that the classroom teachers just may not have the time or the expertise to do. So I was glad to see that the board voted the way that they did. I think it's good that there are also these technology coaches that can specifically help the teachers learn how to use different types of technology. So the technology, the way I see it is that the technology coaches support the teachers, and the library media specialists support the students and the teachers. And the library assistants that also will be hired, they are people who are actually in the physical library and they're a presence in the school. And it's nice, it would be great to have all of them going forward.
Thank you very much. Mr. Garcia, we'll be starting the next round with you. I'm going to try to combine two questions. One of them is very long, and if anybody needs it repeated, I'll repeat it when we get to your turn. This deals with teachers. And this one says, teacher benefits have deteriorated, as have structures to maintain, recruit, and retain our departing teachers. How should the board guide meaningful benefits, recruitment, and retention of our best teachers? And a larger question, which is more at a state level, that relates, is do you think collective bargaining rights should be restored for teachers? So if you can address those issues about retaining, increasing benefits, increasing bargaining rights, or not, and tell us why you think that. Can you give Mr. Garcia the microphone, please?
I think that after Act 10, a lot of things changed for public employees, teachers included in there, and the unions in general. And added to that, later on with the right to work, legislature day actually was a blow to the unions and to good paying jobs, and has created atmosphere not friendly to work with. It has divided the workforce. It creates not a atmosphere where teachers cooperate, but they become kind of selfish because their performance and their ideas are not shared with other teachers, because that will be a base for I don't know if the teachers get merit pay raises like we used to do or not, but you know they count in that, and that is not a good atmosphere to work at. We need to give the teachers a good atmosphere, good benefits, show them they are appreciated by not making them compete, but making them to cooperate with other teachers. And one of the ways to ensure that it would be like restoring collective bargaining. Unfortunately, it's sad to say that is not going to happen unless we change the whole political structure of the state right now. And I really hope, and you guys can aim for that, but I hope we do change in this November, flip around, and we will have some hope for the future. Otherwise, I don't know. But yes, we do need to restore the collective bargaining. And
thank you so much. Mr. Lehman.
Interesting topic. Been on the board for 19 years and probably negotiated, was the head negotiator for the board for probably the last 3 or 4 contracts. Found it very, very frustrating back in the day. As some of you may know, we went 3 contracts or 6 years without a contract because we couldn't agree on health care benefits. As far as recruitment and retention, there's issues maybe with certain disciplines as far as finding qualified candidates for like special ed and that sort of thing, but we don't really have an issue, I don't believe, with recruitment, retention. Neenah is one of the lowest in the valley. We have under 5% turnover rate. Just went to a quarter century club where we had 19 new inductees that worked 25 years in the district, and I think 11 of them did their whole teaching career was in Neenah. As far as my view on unions, I was a supervisor in a plant that supervised millwrights in a union environment, and I don't have an issue with unions. I think it's a shame that we, in the private sector, unions have really been decimated, and it really hurts, I think, worker wages and that sort of thing. My issue with the public union environment is that you can't, if you can't come up with a settlement or agreement, you can't move the school, or you can't move the police or the fire department or fire them. I mean, you got to work with what you got. And with us for healthcare, we were paying $24,000 a year per family plan way back then. And once Act 10 went through, we provided, I believe, equally as well benefits with the HSA at half the cost of $12,000. And that's where we were able to spend that money, put it back in the classroom, and we actually increased our number of FTE, number of staff, and lowered our class size.
Thank you, Mr. Lehman. Mr. Epley.
Well, I'd like to start by saying I think we could increase retention and make the teachers generally happier if we could fix the effectiveness project that we've got now. I'm not exactly sure what the right answer is to that question, but I've been talking to a lot of teachers throughout this campaign, and I haven't found one yet that likes the system. Coincidentally, none of them had any immediate solutions on how to fix it precisely, but I believe there's got to be a solution out there somewhere. For now, that's kind of where we're stuck, but I think we can change it going forward. I think it's really too bad that the way the system is set up, like Mr. Garcia said, it infringes on collaboration and cooperation between teachers. I think that's too bad because that whole learning environment works the best when we have that collaboration. So I guess I would like to make the system we have work better for teachers as we have to work within it now. As for collective bargaining changing, I don't know if that's a thing that we're going to see change or not. I don't think unions are inherently bad. I've worked under both systems, worked around them. I guess I don't have a real firm opinion on that right now. And like I said, we're kind of stuck with what we have. And ideally, we could make the system work and make the teachers happy under the system they're working under, without having to have that the disagreement between the two sides.
Great. Ms. Hallerswick.
I think that the question of attracting and retaining teachers is linked to a question of sort of morale among the staff in the district. Since my kids have been in school for the past 15 years, I would say that the relationship was always pretty strained. Act 10 has certainly exacerbated that strain. So a couple of things. I think that if we were working under the current system, which is where there is no collective bargaining, I think that what things that the board could do would be to address the issue of morale among the staff more directly. The board could certainly survey the staff and then work through the results, by doing focus groups and trying to really get at questions of morale and where are the points of where the problems lie. I do think the teacher effectiveness plan, as Brian alluded to, has been a source of strain for teachers and for staff, and that is a work in progress. I think it's pretty burdensome for them. When it comes to collective bargaining, that is a change that would happen at the state level, and if that change were made, as some candidates for governor have said they would if they were elected, I would certainly support the return to collective bargaining for public employees.
Thank you very much. And and we'll finish this question with Ms. Ellenberger.
Okay, that's a loaded question. So, let's see, some of the benefits. Starting out, the starting salary for a college graduate right into a teaching position at Neenah is the highest in the valley, one of the highest in the state at $42,000 a year. That's right out of college, no experience, walking right into a job at Neenah. That's not so bad. I have a niece who's graduating college right now, and she's looking at, with a degree of UNC Chapel Hill, I think making about $30,000. That's not a bad job, starting out at $42,000 out of college. Some of the benefits, the health benefits, not only have they maintained, we've tried our best to keep the cost down with bargaining with all the different health carriers and trying to get a lower rate every time. But also, we have added a health clinic in our school district. This is new to the school district. It's only been, I believe, 2 years now, John. 2 years that we added. It's in Shattuck. And so if you're a teacher and you're sick in class, and instead of missing a whole day and having to go make an appointment with the doctor, sitting at the doctor's office and waiting to get in, you can make an appointment right online. It takes about 15 minutes, and you're in and out, and you can go right back to the classroom if you're okay to go back to the classroom. So that is one of the benefits that we've added just recently is the new health clinic. The effectiveness pay thing it's a very fluid process. We keep trying to improve it as often as we can. Every year we relook at it and we try to make it more pleasurable for the teachers to go through it, I guess is the best term. Let's see, every year, this year is the lowest out of all the years, but usually we give a 4% increase to all teachers every single year. 4%, where the average is the cost of living rate. Sorry, just for the next one.
Okay. Mr. Neenah, we're going to be starting the next round of questions with you. And this is a pretty straightforward question. What are the most important and impactful strategic goals in the district's technology plan? What are the most important and impactful strategic goals in our district's technology plan? If you'd like to address that.
I don't know if we have specific technology goals. We have learning goals. And to me, as an engineer, I always recognize, I said this 20 years ago, technology, computers, whatever, them are tools. That's not a goal. It's not the be-all, end-all. But it's a matter of how you utilize those tools and the curriculum and having the staff that can leverage it to the maximum ability. Doesn't mean we have to have kids plugged into a computer or an iPad all day to have learning. But, we as a district recognize the importance of it, and we spent, I think, $1.2 million putting fiber optic into all our schools so we could communicate. We had quick access to the internet. We did that about, probably 5 or 6 years ago. Did it underneath the referendum, or without a referendum, under the revenue limits. And we invested heavily into technology, and we're seeing a lot of good, results from students using it. But the goal is to increase learning, get our graduation rates up to at least, right now we're about 92% of kids graduate. We'd like that to be a lot higher. We'd like to get our advanced proficiency up in all our students from 55%. I know our goals are probably 80%, but we all heard about No Child Left Behind. Ideally, you have 100%, but every year you make progress, and I think that's the key. You don't do next year what you did the last year. We're always looking for ways to improve. The thing that's frustrating with education, as an engineer, I always believe in closed loop. You change something in a process, within seconds, sometimes you can tell what the result is. The frustrating part with education is sometimes it takes years to find out when you tweak something what the result was. And I think sometimes in education we tend to try to do too many variables at one time.
Thank you very much. Mr. Epley.
I will. I was thinking you might want to hear this again.
Okay. What What are the most important and impactful strategic goals in the district's technology plan?
So the part I was hung up on was if we're talking about technology as in holding an iPad in your hand, or the technology as far as teaching technology within the school system.
There's no indication, so I'm going to just leave.
Okay.
Each of you
So-
can address it to the best of your own knowledge.
I will say that I agree with John that technology is a very helpful tool. It's important. I use it every day. Literally can't do my job without a computer. So that's definitely something that we need to be teaching our kids. I think they are inherently good at this stuff. I can hand my kids a device and within seconds they'll be playing with it and doing stuff all over the place. So I think it's definitely beneficial, and I'm happy to see that we have the one-to-one device ratio. But I want us to be mindful of how much technology the kids are seeing and using on a daily basis, and how we're using that to the maximum benefit of their educational needs. To the other side of where I thought this question might be going, as far as technology education, vocational training, I think that's definitely something we need to further in our system. The developing economy and new jobs these days. John said he started out as a mechanic. These days you can't be a mechanic unless you also understand computers. So that's definitely something we need to head towards. So again, I'm not exactly sure which half of that question I answered, but that's where I took it.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hollerswick.
I will admit that I don't actually have a copy or have not read the district's strategic technology plan. So I would need to really look at that in order to answer this question fully. But based on what I do know about how the district is using technology and how they're teaching students to learn technology, I think the most important items are that, first of all, that they be critical users of technology. They use technology all the time. Technology is in their hands, it's at home, it's in school. So one of the things that education can do is teach them how to use it, how to sort through good information, bad information, and how to be this critical, and I don't mean critical as in thinking everything is bad, I mean critical as in being able to discern what's good information from bad information. I would like them to learn to be productive users of technology so that when they have technology and they're using it in their classrooms and in their learning, they are getting the most of their technology. That is so that if they're doing a project, they learn to use the tools that they have, so that they're skilled users of these tools. And for when we think about our students going from elementary school all the way through high school, some of the students that we have will go on to college. Some of the students will go directly into jobs when they graduate from high school. And to the extent that we can, for the students who are going to be going in all these different directions, I'd like them to be prepared to enter the job that they've chosen and have the technology skills that they would need. So if a student is, for example, as Brian said, going to be a mechanic, and we have an auto mechanics program at Neenah, then or an apprenticeship program, they would be getting the skills that they would need in order to go into that program.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ellenberger.
Once again, I'm going to reiterate some of the things that we've done in our district. The K through 12 just got passed, one-to-one computers to every child, but the computer is just a tool. It's still up to the teacher to teach, it's still up to the kids to learn. It's just a tool to make their job a little bit easier. We actually, in the last board meeting, if I'm not mistaken, one of our other board members asked to get an updated plan from our director of technology, our IT director, Mr. Matt Anderson, and he's actually going to be presenting to us, I think, in the next maybe in the next couple of months, I think, a 5-year plan probably, on the what we're going to be seeing in the district for technology. I want to go back to the facility study. That was one of the things that I was probably the most disappointed on when I saw that, is that I would like to see more of a technology wing in the high school. I think it's necessary, a whole STEM project, a whole STEM area just from the high school, because that's what our local employers are looking for, is more of that. And I think I would like to see that more so than anything with the new facility study, that and the indoor facility sports thing.
Thank you very much.
I got that, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Garcia, please.
I'm going to take a different approach to this question. I'm going to answer the question as to how to better integrate technology into education. And technology is everywhere, even in the parks. People go and catch Pokemons there, I guess. So, but what I have an issue with technology is in the schools, like starting early on in kindergarten. I know that most kids, 6 months old, they're already in there in the parents' cell phone, all that stuff like that, and it's becoming a decrement for the students if we introduce so early on. We make them base the education on tablets and computers. Nowadays, the kids now, teenagers, they can't read cursive. They can't write because they're used to type everything in the computers, they autocorrect so they can spell correctly. And that is not good for education. I'm all for to have more technology, middle school and up. But elementary school, I do believe that we need to teach them how to read and write handwriting and read handwriting. That's something that for most people say, well, we don't need that anymore. We don't send letters anymore. We just send emails. We put Facebook, Snapchat. But we need to go back there because our generation is getting lost in these skills that are very useful. And technology is making people dumb sometimes. And we need to make sure that our students are analytical about these things and they have to know how to read and write. Thank you.
Thank you very much. More good questions coming in. We're going to be starting round 8 with number 8 already with Mr. Epley. And several of you have alluded to school safety issues when we were talking about the new buildings and improvements and so forth. And so this is another kind of safety question. What are your thoughts on school safety, specifically the governor's proposal about arming teachers? And what do you suggest to reduce and prevent violence? Your thoughts on school safety, arming teachers, how do we prevent and reduce violence? Are we ready?
I almost finished writing the question. Okay. Sorry. That's all right. All right.
You need to look at the question.
No, that's all right. Thank you. Appreciate that. What a fun, loaded question to answer. I did not mean the fun of using the word loaded. What are my thoughts? I actually got this question through my Facebook page, and I wasn't sure how to answer it, and I mulled it over for quite a while. And at first I kind of gave a dumb answer, and then I went back and thought about it another day, and I went back and I actually wrote to the lady again and said, I'm sorry about the answer I gave you before. It was stupid. It was wishy-washy and non-committal. I think the idea of arming our teachers is stupid. I don't think it's a good idea to introduce more guns into a situation where the guns are the problem. I like guns. They're fun to play with sometimes in a shooting range. At the Boys and Girls Brigade, I've shot guns since I was in 6th grade. But I don't think they deserve any place in our school, and adding more of them to the situation is not a good plan. I imagine someone entering, a police officer entering a school in a shooting situation and finding someone in the hallway with a gun and having to make the decision of, okay, the person holding the gun, are they supposed to be holding that gun? And I don't know if I want them to wait long enough to make that decision. So how do we prevent and reduce violence? Boy, that's a big social issue that we have to deal with across our entire country, isn't it? I really like a story I read about a teacher who goes out of her way to find students in her class that are feeling left out. And she uses that time to find those kids and try to give them coaching ahead of time, starting all the way in kindergarten. She's a kindergarten teacher. And I think that's something we need to work on in society in general. So it's a problem that's a bit bigger than the school board, but we can definitely start it in our schools.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hollerswick.
I will second Brian in saying that I think arming teachers is stupid, and for the reasons that he said. I am happy to see that our state legislators are finally acknowledging that there is, in fact, a problem with shootings in schools. This is a positive step. The measures that they've proposed and passed don't go far enough, however. But it's just acknowledging that's a problem is a step in the right direction. So how do we make our schools safer? One, building safety. One of the things we need to do and the facility study has addressed this, the renovations to the buildings will make the schools safer from shooters, which is it's crazy to me to even have to say this, but it is the world we are living in. The safety plan that I believe was approved in Madison does provide $100 million in competitive grants for security improvements. And Dr. Pfeiffer said at the board meeting on Tuesday that Neenah is actually positioned pretty well to get one of those grants. I think $100 million for security improvements throughout the state is not going to go very far, though. So I think there's going to be more money for that. We are in this district addressing mental health among our students more seriously. I attended the youth mental health first aid training on March 3rd, and the two counselors who led that program were excellent. They were just awesome, and I think that's really great, those initiatives that they're doing. I think the thing that's missing at the state level right now is the discussion of guns. In this country, 20 kids are injured or killed every single day from a gun. Either they're killed or through homicide, through suicide, or through accidents. And I think that we, all of us who are up here, we are proposing to be leaders in education, and we have the opportunity to speak up about things that would make kids safer, like background checks and those kinds of things.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ellenberger.
It's a huge deal right now. Let's see. I was listening to the radio and I heard someone call in and they said they had the most simplest idea. And I thought, wow, could we do that in our district? Could we do this in our schools? And I'll tell you about the idea in just a second. But I thought, maybe. And so then I was attending my legislative committee meeting. Actually, it was a legislative breakfast, and it included all the different, once again, state reps. And I was sitting there, and that's when they said, oh, there's a good chance we were going to be releasing $100 million in either grants or just straight out funding to the school districts per pupil. And I thought, wow, this is an opportunity. I'm going to bring up my idea. So the next day, I called all the local chair people, so on the boards of the county, the local chief, Wilkerson, and Sheriff Motts, and all the different chairmen and the city of Neenah. And I said, could we do this? And they said, yeah, we could. That would be a much easier way. And it was a simple idea. Have satellite offices in all the schools for the police officers to do their paperwork. If you've ever noticed that a lot of the police officers are in parking lots throughout the district or wherever in the county guys they have to go someplace to do their paperwork. And I thought, what a great opportunity. It would be nice for the kids to be able to meet more police officers, and it would probably be more of a deterrent for would-be shooters and so forth. With the money, I think we could also use that for, like Carol just said, that for mental health issues also, because that's the second biggest thing that is causing this. So between those two things, I think it's just a simple idea, and I don't think it would cost the voter or the voters' money and everybody else's money. I think it would be a much simpler idea than considering arming teachers and so forth.
Thank you so much. Mr. Garcia.
Picture this. There's a fire in there, and the firemen go and try to kill the fire with gasoline. That's what is equivalent arming teachers in there. Teachers went to school to teach, not to be soldiers, so that's the dumbest idea. How to reduce, how are we going to combat this? We need to, I'm very disappointed that politicians and nationwide and statewide, they don't want to address the main issue here. There is no need for army-style weapons in the civilian arms, period. I don't care what else to say. It's not I could say, is my Second Amendment right to wear arms? Yes. But nowhere that says you have to have a military-style army in there. Also, the Second Amendment says a disciplined and well-structured militia. I don't see that happening there. Another issue, how can we reduce that violation in school? Well, we need to make sure that schools are prepared to identify and address mental issues early on and provide their students with the support they need. That's where more staff will be available there for staff to deal with people or students with mental health issues there, counselors. Addressing behavior in the restorative justice instead of suspending and sending kids to school they're there with no supervision at home. The school should be engaging more in discussions in the school about different issues. The students and teachers should be trained in sensitivity training. Should be clubs that are talking about diversity, talking about mental health issues. That's a way to educate them. When the ones that walk out of school, they say walk up. A walk up to a student who's being bullied should be every day and not just one day per year.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lehman, can you finish this discussion?
I don't know, I'll finish it, but
For now.
very, obviously very political. I'm a staunch, as a military veteran. I owned my first .22 rifle at the age of 10, been hunting since the age of 12. In the military, I carry a .38 revolver whenever I had passengers on board. In case there was a hijacking, we trained every year with the handgun. To me, school safety is probably the biggest concern or fear I do have as a board member, because I do believe they're very soft targets, and it's very difficult to stop a shooter that's going to want to get in the building and do harm. I believe in the Second Amendment. I'm not an NRA member. I don't own any assault rifles, but I do own rifles and that sort of thing. I do believe that if you got a bad guy with a gun, it often takes a good guy with a gun. That's why our cops carry them. In Neenah, we allowed off-duty officers to conceal carry within our schools. About 5 or 6 years ago, before it was even mandated, we upgraded our safety where we locked the doors, minimize access. We have to be buzzed in. We added additional cameras. We moved some of the entry points so it goes past the offices. I think we need to do that so all our schools where it's controlled entry near the school office. So I do believe there's things that we can do from a dollar standpoint. As far as arming teachers, we have resource officers in our buildings that are armed. We have active duty guardsmen that are colonels that worked performed overseas, Afghanistan, Iraq. They know how to handle a weapon, and a person like that was trained and willing to carry concealed, I would not have an issue with that. But definitely, I would not just willy-nilly arm everybody. Definitely not required.
Thank you. Ms. Hollerswood, we're going to be starting the next round with you. You have a microphone, Cindy? Okay. We have two questions that are related. I'm going to try to combine them. The first one's very long, and at the core, it has to do with our district's human growth and development recommendations. And I will read the entire question. Do you support or oppose the human growth and development recommendation that teaches kindergartners private body part anatomy, first graders that their gender identity is based on what they feel, and eighth graders about the sexual response cycle and condom use? The second question, which I think is in that same ballpark, has to do with what is your feeling about transgender students being granted protected class status in our district, non-discrimination policy? And what impact are both of these having on our school community? So we're looking at the human growth and development curriculum and the protected class of transgender students. How does that impact our school community?
Could you just read the part about the kindergarten and first grade and eighth grade?
Yep.
Again? Okay.
They're asking how you're feeling about teachers, about teaching kindergartners private body part anatomy, first graders that their gender identity is based on how they feel, what they feel rather, and eighth graders about the sexual response cycle and condom use.
Okay, so the human growth and development, the new, the plan that is being worked on, it was the strands for it, the sort of general plan for it was approved by the Board of Education in November. And what's underway now is that the curriculum committee and the teachers are developing curriculum. I do not believe that any of those things are actually going to be taught to kindergartners, first graders, and eighth graders in those terms. They are kindergarten teachers have, in my experience, have taught kids about safe touching. You know, so you understand like your body is your own, and that people can't just touch it. They don't actually go into what They let the parents teach about the body parts, and they generally teach just what's a safe touch and what's a not safe touch. Same thing about teaching gender identity. That's not going to be taught like in these terms at first grade. I'm confident it will be something where sometimes boys do certain things and girls do certain things, and sometimes girls and boys like different things. Sometimes they like things that are traditionally things that boys like, and some things are things that traditionally girls like. So I'm not living in fear that our kids are going to come up with something that's really inappropriate to teach our kids. I do think the human growth and development curriculum needs to be revised. I anticipate, if you elect me, I anticipate supporting it. And regarding the transgender non-discrimination policy, that is in the works. It has not come to the board for approval. I would anticipate supporting that as well. I am a parent of two gay children, and I just want to say to you all that kids are kids, and they're living in the world that they're living in, and they're not choosing to be this way. They are, and we love them, and we need to support them. And I know I'm going over time, and I'm getting a little emotional, but this is a subject that is really near and dear to my heart and my family, and I feel very strongly about supporting kids.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Ellenberger. I was glad to see an updated version of the health, human growth and development. But I will say there were 7 strands, and I voted no on I think more than half of them. It is teaching about gender and so forth at kindergarten. It wasn't at first grade, and I didn't think that was appropriate. I think there's got to be a time when let the kids just learn how to read at that point, and I honestly believe that. And then some of the other strands that I did vote no on was, one in particular was in 6th grade, in a co-ed setting. This is in a co-ed setting, that, and it might not be a health teacher, it could be a social studies teacher, and so forth. They're going to teach kids or talk to kids in co-ed settings about, was introduced to my daughter, about masturbation and so forth. And I specifically asked them, and they said, yes, that's what that means. And to me, in a co-ed classroom, I just don't understand that in 6th grade. In 8th grade, fine. I understand that kids need to learn about condom use and everything. I totally get that, and I'm for that. But in a co-ed setting, in 6th, 7th, and 8th graders to teach kids how to use condoms. Now, I don't know if anybody in here has been around a 6th, 7th, or 8th grader, and I'm sure they're going to take that really very seriously, and I'm sure they're going to concentrate, and I'm sure there's not going to be any craziness in the classroom. I think if you're going to do that, separate the kids, have it girls and then boys. I just don't agree with that, raising a kid. I just don't see any, educational, I'm running out of time. The transgender policy, it has not been presented to the board yet, so I have no idea what's coming, so thank you. Mr. Garcia.
In the real world, we don't separate men and females to teach things. And I don't know too much about the curriculum, but I do believe that a lot of things that has to do with human growth development, it needs to start at home with the parents. It needs to be reinforced in the school with properly trained and properly vetted curriculum. We live in a different world now. I mean, I'm 51 years old, and when I went to school, it was something completely different than it is right now. The kids shows that I watch back there, they're nothing compared to what the kids are watching right now. The Disney Channel used to be safe for kids. Have you watched? Have you looked at what the kids are watching right now in there? I mean, we can't close the eyes to reality. Our kids are awakening sexually early on. And if we don't give the proper instruction to them how to deal with that, we're going to have a lot of trouble. So I don't see anything wrong with teaching them how to properly address the sexual issues in there, as long as there is a qualified person there to teach them. Teaching about condoms, about how to use the pill. I mean, kids, like it or not, they're becoming sexual active more in early ages. And if they don't know how to deal with the issues, we having those consequences of unwanted pregnancies. And we need to open the eyes to reality. Nobody wants to hear that. But that is the reality nowadays.
Thank you very much, Mr. Raymond.
I have a few more seconds. I will totally support making the transgender a protective, yes. And all of these things also could be avoided if we have more, we teach kids about respect and acceptance to others.
Sorry, I thought you were finished.
I was going to, but I forgot about transgender.
Thank you for answering both questions. Mr. Lehman.
All right, well, I was on the board when we were the first school in the district, in the area, that created the LBGT club out at the high school. I supported that because I believe that we need to teach tolerance. But now with the gender identity issue and our human growth and development curriculum, it's really probably about 80% of it's the same as what it's been for 20 years. The gender identity is one area that's changing. They're also starting to teach in elementary school about human-borne pathogens and HIV and that sort of thing. And I think that's too young because the kids aren't old enough to understand the risk, and I don't think they're really going to be that exposed to it. That should be taught, I believe, at the middle school. As far as gender identity issues specifically, I have one or two at our schools. Now, a year later, we said, well, maybe we got 15, 16, So we were looking at, so the board requested that they come up with a policy on how we would handle that at the high school. I don't believe that there's like 69 different identifiable genders, maybe there's probably even more by now. I do believe that there's basically two sexes, and you should use the restroom and the locker room to the sex or gender you were assigned at birth. If for some reason that's uncomfortable and you want others to use something else, you cannot just use the opposite sex restrooms. I think we ought to make accommodations for those people so that they're not ostracized and it meets their needs. But that's kind of where I'm at on that. Yeah.
You're opening the microphone? All right.
That's all I got to say about that.
Thank you very much. We are almost at 8 o'clock, so after Mr. Epley has a chance to respond to this, we'll go around one last time. You each get about a minute and a half to wrap up, so you can be thinking about that while Mr. Epley addresses the questions.
All right, I definitely support updating the human growth and development curriculum. My 5th grader currently is in the health class, and I watched some of the videos that he's going to see in class, and they're absolutely ridiculous. So the fact we haven't updated them hurts me a little bit, so I think we need to look at that. Kind of like Carol said, I don't believe we know these specific questions that were mentioned, or the specific items that were mentioned in the question. I'm not sure if we'll know those specifics until the plan actually comes back to the board. So I don't want to get too excited about that yet. Personally, I'm not worried about it for my kids because I have beliefs and values that I'm going to teach my kids at home. But I'm more worried about the kids whose parents aren't as involved as I am. They maybe just don't care, or they're unaware of it. And those kids are the ones that we really need to teach these difficult lessons that make us uncomfortable. I'm really glad my mom left tonight before I said the word condom in the library. Unfortunately, my dad's still here, so that's a little weird. But no, that's a really important lesson that we need to teach these kids. If we bury our heads in the sand and pretend it's never going to happen, we're just going to cause further problems down the line. The world is changing around us, whether we like it or not. Again, it might make us uncomfortable, but LGBTQ kids exist. They're all around us, and they need our support more than anyone, really. The suicide rates are higher for those kids, and they need our support to make sure that they can live a healthy, productive life. So I think we need the curriculum that will address that, all of those issues.
Thank you very much. We're going to ask Ms. Hollerswick, you have your 90 seconds, and we'll go around, and then we'll conclude this evening. Are you ready, Ms. Strayer? You know, we changed the time, so we better.
Okay, I'll rip through this. So I want to say thanks again to all of you who came out and asked good questions. I want to say thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this, and to Neenah Olson for being a great moderator, and to my fellow candidates who all want to serve on the Board of Education. I think it's a big commitment. My pledges to you, if you choose to elect me, is that I will listen to you, I will learn from you, and whether you are a parent, a teacher, a student, an administrator, or a community member. I want to be informed about what matters to this community. I will bring a problem-solving mindset to the discussions that come before the board. That's my style. I like to try to find where the issues are, where there's agreement, where there's disagreement, and work toward consensus. There are always going to be compromises. There are going to be trade-offs. I mean, it's the nature of the beast. But I will work toward the consensus. I will support initiatives and ideas that make the Neenah Joint School District a destination district for families and for staff. That's a priority for me. I've promised to advocate on behalf of schools and educators and students both here, and if I'm given the opportunity, I will represent our district in Madison as well. Above all, I promise to be forward-thinking and open to effective ways of helping all students engage in school and reach their potential regardless of their background.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Ellenberger, please. You want to say Ellenberger, don't you?
No, I've never thought it.
I honestly never did.
There's a lot of them around here. There's not a lot of Ellenbergers. Let's see. Once again, thanks everyone for coming tonight and being involved in this process. And thanks for the Women League of Voters for putting this on. I'm going to talk about the accomplishments of what Neenah Joint District has done. Once again, starting salary at $42,000 for guys, women and men getting out of college. I want to talk about we have some of the highest AP course offerings in the Valley. In the last 2 years, we have had 859 kiddos take the AP test. That's a huge, I know I keep saying kiddos, I'll say kids or students take the test. That's an amazing number. These kids are going to college and they've already got that much college under their belt before they go. Also, I want to talk about, we have the lowest K through 3 classroom sizes in the Valley. The lowest one. I think our average is 18 to 20. That's wonderful for our community. Also, I want to give kudos to the Touch of Class tonight. This is a group, our orchestra group, that is going to China tonight to go tour for 2 weeks. It's an amazing opportunity. Also, all the service trips that are being offered, we're working on right now, and this is something I want to continue working on in the school board, is that any kid that wants to go on one of these service trips at the high school level, we're going to do whatever we can to get the funds to make sure they can go so they can experience life outside of Neenah and know how much I'm already run out of time. I had so much more to talk about, the incubator class and so forth. Thanks again for coming, and if you have any more questions afterwards, I would love to talk. So,
Thank you. Mr. Garcia.
Thank you. Same, my prior speaker said, thank you for being here. And I decided to run again because I want to serve you. I want to be the voice of teachers, the students, the community, and the board. I want to make sure that the school district has transparency when they deal with some issues there. I want to make sure that the teachers, students, and parents, they don't have any obstacles to come and talk to the school board. I don't want anybody to have fear of talking to the school board. I want to bring, and I will bring, a different perspective to the board. I want to bring a culture, a diversity perspective to the board. I want them to have a representation of what the community is on the board. And when you vote, I will be there to help you make that goal. And I don't like the word tolerance. I prefer the word acceptance. Because tolerate means that, okay, it's okay with you, but I want to accept you. I don't care who you are, I won't judge you, I will accept you. So I would like to sometime change that no tolerance policy to acceptance policy.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lehman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Garcia. I'll second that. Thank you for correcting me. I think it's a great term. Just want to go back and say that my wife was a graduate of Neenah, first class out of the new Armstrong High School. Son and daughter both graduated from Neenah. I'm a product of public schools. I'm a strong supporter of public schools. I think it is a community, and we need to keep them strong, provide the best curriculum that meets the needs of all students. And people often ask, well, why are you still on the board? Kids aren't there. And I said, well, I never got on the board to be an advocate for my kids. I want to be an advocate for all the children, all the stakeholders, staff, as well as community members, people on fixed incomes. We need to make the best decisions for our district to provide the best education. And I want to go back on gender roles for elementary students. I never had to say it. I think the only thing we need to teach elementary students about gender roles is that boys and girls can be whatever they want to be when they grow older. It's not about roles that are strictly for boys or girls. And we got female astronauts, female pilots, and we have male nurses. So that's what I think we ought to be teaching in our elementary schools for gender. But thank you all for coming and your attention.
Thank you. And bring us home, Mr. Apley.
Thanks. No pressure. Right. I hope I'm speaking loud enough this time around. Yes, thank you all for being here. Thank you to the League of Women Voters. Thank you for taking an interest in your community. Again, that's why I'm here. I would want to take more of an interest in my community, take a more forward role in shaping policies to affect our community. I think one of the biggest issues coming up is the facilities study. Obviously, it's a large dollar item. A lot of decisions to be made on that. My experience in engineering, design, and construction, I think, will provide an informed perspective on that plan. My kids are going to be in our schools for many years to come, so school safety and the best facilities are my foremost concern. But at the same time, I also live here, and I want to make sure our tax dollars are spent as appropriately as they can be. I'm also very concerned about open communication lines between the board and the teachers. I've talked to a lot of teachers so far, and some have asked me not to use their names in further discussions. And I really don't. It makes me feel uncomfortable. I mean, I'm keeping their information private, but I wish they didn't feel like they had to say that to me. So I'd like to make that a priority as well.
I would like to, I think this has been an illuminating discussion, and I just want to thank each and every one of you for your honest responses, for those of you who are on the board, thank you for your service. Those of you who are coming to the board as candidates, thank you so much for the conviction and the commitment that you're showing for our students. As a former teacher myself, my heart is gladdened to see people like yourselves who are coming to serve on our board. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank our audience for your insightful questions and your polite behavior all night. The principal isn't going to be chasing after you. We owe a big debt to our two organizations, the Fox Cities Advocates for Public Education and the League of Women Voters of Winnebago County. Thank you so very much for organizing this and giving our community a chance to ask those important questions. Many of our board candidates have indicated that they will stick around for a little while. We still had a few questions we didn't get to. We really did well tonight. We got through 9 rounds, so I think we did very well. No, there are no easy ones. There are no easy ones, Mr. Lehman. So thank you so much. If you care to stick around for a little bit, most of these kind folks have graciously offered to stay and engage with you. Thank you so much.